Midori Verity. I love talking with Midori. She's a business entrepreneur. She, had many businesses. Her first business out of school, she ended up just hating. She was miserable. Her personal goal, core values did not align with the business. She's had many businesses since then, but what she's doing now is really, really impressive. Fuel to Fire, where she helps business owners, entrepreneurs align goal setting. Um, it's very interesting, her approach. She has three core components to do that: passion, drives, core values, and of course, my favorite, zone of genius. Wait till you learn what she means about zone of genius. But just a great conversation about entrepreneurship. I love talking about where business owners, entrepreneurs fall short, where they need most help in delegation, the difference between leadership and management. Great conversation with Midori. I know you're going to enjoy it. I certainly did. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Very, very exciting, Midori Verity. Thank you so much for your time today. How important is accountability in business leadership and ownership?
I've been in business for almost 30 years and worked with a gazillion entrepreneurs. And the one thing that I see is I see these entrepreneurs who work their behinds
Yeah.
off, right? If you know quite a few entrepreneurs, seems to be a trait where they're working, working, working. The problem is often they are not
Yeah.
succeeding in achieving their big goals. And what happens when you have accountability, there's a number of things that happen. One, you're going to stay focused, right? Because you're talking with these people consistently. But number two, you end up pushing yourself past limiting
Mm.
beliefs, past those mental ceilings that are there that hold you back, because you have these other people that are surrounding you that are doing it as well. And there's just this kind of like this magic that happens. And you just naturally start doing things that you didn't think you would. And so that is just kind of a nutshell the benefit of having a strong accountability partner or strong accountability group.
I remember when, I started my business in the 90s, and, I joined a peer group in the 2000s, late 2000s, and just I thought I was alone on an island. Nobody understood what it was like to try to make payroll. Nobody understood what it was like, to deal with, employees and clients and banks and vendors. And then once you start meeting with people in similar predicaments, and you start having somebody holding you accountable monthly and quarterly, it's just a game changer.
You don't feel alone
That's true.
anymore. Right? How many times do you talk to an entrepreneur who, when they're being honest, they tell you that they're
Right.
lonely, right? Even with these people who are parts of large, very, very successful organizations, they don't have someone that they can go to in their organization and truly share what's going on. It's not safe to. And so when you have that person that you can talk to who, one, is interested in what you're talking about, because if you're not talking with a like-minded person, it goes right over their head and you can tell. So you need to have that like-minded person who can listen and understand and empathize and hopefully offer some suggestions on how to get to that next level or help you through whatever challenge you're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. Now your first business, and you say 3 decades, but you're way too young for that. But I think that you said that you didn't like it. You dreaded it.
I hated
Yes,
it. I hated it down to like
core.
the ends of my hair to my toes. Yeah, it was just completely out of alignment. When we first started it, I'll tell you, it was exciting, it was
Yeah.
thrilling. We were seeing, relative success fairly quickly. But then the reality hit that I
Mm.
hated it. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. I was burned out. Um, yeah, I learned quite a bit from that
And then the
experience.
pandemic hit, and you saw a need in yourself and in others, and you pursued it.
Oh, correct. Yeah. So I've owned a number of different businesses from that very first one that you were
Yeah.
speaking about that I despised. And through that experience, I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. I've worked with, startups to Silicon Valley companies. But what I saw when the pandemic hit is a kind of freak out
Mm.
with so many business owners because all of a sudden their business got turned upside down and there was no planning for it. You
Right.
can't who plans for a
Right.
pandemic, right? And from owning so many businesses over the years, one thing that I've become skilled at is getting knocked down and punched in the gut and knocked out at the knees. It's just part of entrepreneurship, right? And so whether it's, you know, losing a huge client or going through a pandemic, it still involves change and looking for opportunities. And so for me, it was fairly easy, but I saw so many others that were struggling who didn't know what to do and they were just kind of frozen in panic. And that's when the idea for Fuel the Fire came to be.
Out of these depths, I so my biggest challenge in the business world was 2007. The crash, you know, within 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 77% of our business was gone. And it's devastating. And you, like you say, you just can't prepare from it. But a great entrepreneur has to pivot and find another need and then pursue it. And now you're helping others, and you got this, great testimonials. You got great, your website is wonderful, and the way you help with goal setting and with accountability. You're loving it, but you still have your challenges. You said there was a fallout with a partner, and you're still, there's still always challenges, but it's still inspiring, and you love what you do.
You have to, right? So getting back to what you asked me about earlier. You said, so you clearly, Joey, you've done your research and I appreciate that. But with the first business that you were talking about that I
Yeah.
despised, the reason why I despised it was once the excitement wore off, I realized I was completely out of alignment with what mattered to me
Mm.
the most. And with what I do now with Fuel the Fire, I couldn't be more in alignment with what matters to me most. And so that's the difference. So regardless of whatever challenges may occur, when you care so much about something and when it is focused on core values, on your drives, and quite frankly, your zone of genius, what you're good at, then it's easy to get through those challenges, or easier. I shouldn't say easy, but it's easier to get through those challenges and keep on pushing and getting up each day and grinding.
Certainly less difficult. How has neuroplasticity helped you?
Oh gosh, that's kind of the foundation of everything. So when I was in the first business, when we first started that, we were my husband and I had just graduated college. We were happened to be in a recession,
Mm.
And we're like, what are we going to do? We can't, there's not any good jobs available. What are we going to do? Let's start a business. And so we really didn't know what we were doing and started the business. Um, and then, of course, I went through this the period where I went through a depression because I hated it so much and I didn't know how
Mm.
to get out. I had no idea what to do. I felt like the whole business relied on just my husband and myself, even though we had employees. Um, and so, in my search for answers, just to get myself out of my own way, I stumbled upon the science of neuroplasticity, which is just it's brain science and the power that our brain has in helping us evolve and step into the person that we want to become and how to um, kind of create a transformation into whatever you want. And it's, people talk about, magic and manifestation and all these other things, but really what it comes down to is brain science. You have to be able to believe that something's
Mm.
possible first. And then once you can believe it and you can see it, then you start doing things unconsciously and consciously that help it come true. And so that's how everything else kind of comes together. And so for me, the reason why I am such a neuroplasticity geek is that it transformed my life. It helped me step into a person that I never thought was if someone told me I'd be doing what I'm doing now and working with the level of people that I'm working with right now, if they would have told me this 15 years ago, I would have called BS on them. There's no way. But through this series of working on reprogramming my mindset, it just kind of naturally evolved. And now it feels so natural that I am working with these people and that I have something to share with them and I can help them. Um, but yeah, so I owe that truly to a lot to neuroplasticity and the whole brain science and how our neurocells in our brain can evolve and change and help us become the person that we want to become or um, have the talent that we need to have to step into that new level. Make
Yeah,
sense?
it's when I heard, when I was researching you and I found out about it, and I certainly heard the term, and I dig a little deeper, and it's amazing that it's something that I think that happens to a lot of people, but they don't realize it. I think once that you understand it, how the body, the mind is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And so your ability, when you found it and discovered it, and then you purposely point your life and point your motives in a direction as attributes to that is amazing, and I think it could help a lot of people at a great editor.
I have a client who started working with us in Fuel the Fire about a little over 18 months ago. And when she came to us, she was a university professor, had been for a long time, has a PhD. And she said to me, Midori, I don't, I'm not a true entrepreneur like you are. And she had already started her business and I just didn't understand what she meant by that. But in her mind,
Mm.
she saw herself as only a university professor and she had been surrounded by other university professors, so she didn't see herself as this brilliant person because everyone else around her already was, right? But she wasn't around other entrepreneurs, so she didn't identify with that. And so,
Hmm.
from working with her and helping her achieve these goals, and we worked on the mindset part um, and then the frameworks that we have in Fuel the Fire, she has exploded as far as being an entrepreneur. She reached her big. We have what are called summit goals in Fuel the Fire, which are usually 12 months to 24 months out, and she hit all of those 4 months early. She exceeded all of her financial goals 4 months early, and she's just
Hmm.
doing so well. But we had to work on her mindset. We had to get her to believe that she was an entrepreneur and that she could work with these high level people and now with corporations she's working with. But that's what we had to do to get her to kind of step into that world and be able to thrive. So that's an example of a person who went from thinking, they're at one level, transformed into this entrepreneur, although she already was, but she had to believe it. And then she saw from there this ability to absolutely accelerate her success. So that was the impact of it. I could go on and on about how neuroplasticity and neuroscience changes people, but that's just one example. And I'll share one more. So I have another client who came to me, and she was successful. She owns a winery. She also is working as an executive sales director for a distribution company in the wine industry, doing really, really well. But she didn't believe it. She had what she called imposter. She believed that she was an imposter and that they just had her there because they felt like they needed to have her there. I'm like, but wait a minute, you're doing well. You've brought in these sales. Your wine business is growing. What do you mean you're an imposter? But that's what she believed. And so
Mm.
from working together, what we saw was, we worked on her mindset. We worked on getting her to believe that she was worthy, that she did belong, that she was capable. And what happened is within 6 months, she hit her biggest sales that she had ever had for the distribution company of 2.5 million with one of the biggest wineries around our area. And then she went on to capture a few other really, really large contracts. But she said before that was never part of her mindset. She didn't think it was possible until she believed it was possible through changing her mindset. So those are just a couple simple examples.
Do you think imposter syndrome is prevalent with
Oh,
entrepreneurs?
completely. Not only entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
but people who are
Right.
at high levels in corporations too, especially
Mm.
for women, but it happens with men as well.
Yeah, they're really good, but am I? Do I? Should I be here? That
Are they
kind of
gonna
thing,
find out
right?
that I really don't know the answers to these questions? Are they gonna find out
Mm.
that I'm really scared to death? Are they going to find out that I'm really not qualified for this position or for this company, or that I don't know what I'm doing as an entrepreneur? I don't know enough as an entrepreneur, or I don't know how to lead all these employees. These are the things. I have this one guy who also is in Field of Fire, and his company exploded. He grew to $5 million within 3 years, and within I think it was about 12 months, he had 11 employees. And then within 18 months, I think he went to about 23 employees, right around there. And I remember him telling me, I don't know how to lead these people. I'm scared to death. He was young. He was
Mm.
about 25 at that time. Um, but he didn't know how. He was scared, and the imposter syndrome came up. And it was just he just lacked this, he never had that experience before. And so, yes, it comes down to the neuroplasticity, but there also it came down to the skill set. He needed to develop some of those skills,
Mm.
leadership skills. But then once he did, he was able to own it. But even if you can have all the education in the world, I see this so often with entrepreneurs where they have this perfectionism syndrome going on. They have the imposter syndrome going on. And so they're constantly reading, they're constantly getting educated, they're constantly going to events to learn more instead of doing, right?
Mm.
And so once he started, actually executing on what he was learning, then he saw, okay, I do have this. My employees respect me. My business is growing. This is doing really well. But it took him a little while to adjust to that. But that's an issue that I see so often.
Absolutely. A big issue I see with entrepreneurs, and I suffer with it too, is delegation. It comes down. I know how to order the pizza; the others can't. I mean, you have to. You can't do that. You can't grow. You can't scale. Delegation is a learned skill.
Yeah, and it's tough. I remember when we first started our other company, I told you it was growing fairly rapidly. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was very successful in business. And I was complaining. I was telling him, I'm like, gosh, I'm answering the phones and it just rings off the hook. And then I have to do the marketing, and then I have to book the events, and then I have to schedule the employees. And I was just telling him all these things. And he just like calmly said to me, he's like, can't you get someone to do some of that for you? And I remember so naively saying to him, no, Steve, I can't, because I do it the best. And if I'm not doing it, our business is going to
Right.
shrink. And then and he just kind of stayed quiet because he knew I had to learn on my own. And then fast forward to the time where I went through that huge depression, and it was just building. It was coming. At one point, it was going to happen, and um, I got so burnt out, I had to kind of run away. But during that process, when I did, I went to an event and I learned more about business and about delegation, and that's when I got introduced to neuroplasticity. And when I got introduced to the concept of neuroplasticity, it was like a light bulb went off. And all of a sudden, this huge weight that I had been carrying for so many years was lifted off of me. And I realized, holy
Mm,
crap, it's not about me. I need to train someone to do this. And they can. And once I learned that, it was just like something that seemed so difficult and so burdensome became so easy. I don't know what happened, but there's just like this shift in my brain. And the funny thing is, Joey, when I thought, oh no, I could never have someone take my place because my business needs me or else it's going to fall apart, right? And so I hired my first person to take over the phone calls and do our business bookings. And I pretty much stepped away from the business. I put people in place to do my jobs.
wonderful.
um, my business grew. It grew without me, Joey. It kept growing. And in fact, we still have that business and it's grown tremendously without me. And so I had to get my ego out of the way, is really what it came down to. And I had to talk to others who had been there, who had done that, and had been successful and knew way more than I knew. I had to be humbled. And I was humbled big time and thankful for it.
Mm. Perhaps also discipline entered there as well. Another thing I see struggling with entrepreneurs is the Midori. What to you? What is the difference between leadership and management?
Yeah, leadership is what you need to really create a vision for the company or for your at least for your department. Without a clear vision, without a motivation, employees aren't bought in and they're not going to give you your
Right.
best. That's where the management comes in, right? So as a leader, you need to be that visionary. You need to share what the goal is of your organization or of your department, and you need to get people bought in. So you have to be motivating and inspiring. And another part of leadership is you need to be able to identify in those who work with you what their zone of genius is and help them step into it and bring it out in them and give them the confidence to do that. And when you can do that effectively, oh my gosh, that's when your business can grow and it can just blossom, right?
Yes.
So when you say leadership and management, the leadership is that visionary. They're the one who motivates and makes sure that everything happens. But the management is the one that helps direct the people underneath you to do what needs to be done. And they kind of watch over that. Entrepreneurs, in my experience, and also in my research, entrepreneurs often are the visionaries. Visionaries
Right.
often are not great at the management part of a business. So, as your business grows, as your income grows, it's something to be aware of. And, especially if you're the visionary type, you most likely need someone called an integrator. An integrator is the person who takes all your big ideas and makes them happen and keeps you allows you to be more focused on what you need to be so you can reach those big goals. So you need both to be successful in business.
Absolutely essential. And we know, I've had managers who thought they were leaders, and I've had leaders who thought they were managers. And, it's very different. I mean, if we think of some of the classic, I'm in the tech world, so you're Silicon Valley. I mean, we think of Steve Jobs. Obviously, he was a visionary. This was the idea. You have a direction you want the company, the products to go in. Management is more of, okay, here's our marks, our landmarks is what we're going to reach. How are we getting there? Are we meeting all our goals, our milestones, etc.? But I think that's another thing that entrepreneurs suffer with, that some are leaders and some are managers. And I always give the example of Google. We had the two there at Stanford, and at one particular point they decide to hire a CEO. They don't get enough credit for that. you know, there's other examples where they say, well, no, I'm just going to tackle this myself, even though I'm a technical person. And we had these two that did that. And we can't grow this business anymore. We're technicians. We brought it to a certain point. Now we're going to hire the CEO and they're going to take it over. I think that's very mature and shows a overall, vision to help the company grow.
Absolutely. I think another good example is WeWork, right? WeWork, that
Yeah.
guy was a visionary. I can't remember his name, but he's
Yeah.
an
Completely.
incredible visionary. However,
Yeah.
when his business got to a certain point, it was time for him to kind of step back and move
That's right.
on. And so I agree with you. Absolutely, Joey. We see it quite often, and it takes a mature business owner to or founder to kind of release his baby
The founder.
and bring in someone
That's
to
right.
help it grow because you love it so much.
Yeah. And learn about neuroplasticity and learn that the success of your organization is much greater when you're not there. If you can step away and you can continue to be the visionary, but let others do it. You have kind of three components to your organization that really help entrepreneurs. You have passion and drives, core values, and then my favorite, the zone of genius. Can we
I
talk
think it
about that?
leads perfectly into what you're just talking about, right? The visionary
Yeah.
of a business has their zone of genius. They're great at thinking up ideas and coming up with big solutions. However, they stink. So that would be their zone of genius, right? And they stink at
Mm,
implementing and executing, right? Because they just want to be thinking of big things, and that's just kind of their natural tendency. And the beauty of understanding your zone of genius is that is where you should be. You should be focused on what you're really good at. Spend your time there because you're going to enjoy your business much more. You're going to be more successful and you're not going to irritate people as much. And then find the people that you need that fulfill that gap of where you aren't so strong. And so, um, yeah, that's where you want to be.
when you're bringing your clients in, do you feel that they're getting more disciplined?
Yeah. And so, what I would say I see more than necessarily the discipline part is the habits that are built.
Mm,
And so let me just give an example because I think this will be easier to explain the concept. So the client that I spoke about earlier, the university professor, she and I worked one on one. She hired me as a VIP coach, along with being in Fuel the Fire accountability pods, and so each week when we were getting together, she made sure to go back and look at her summit goals and what needed to be done so that she was staying focused on getting those done. So,
mm.
yes, of course, there was some discipline there, but that became her habit. So it didn't feel like something she had to do. It was just like what she did. You see the difference? It was like
Wow.
it was not something that she stressed over. It was just something that's like, okay, this is what needs to get done. Let's get it done. And she did consistently. And that's why her business has grown so much. Um, just another client that I have, and she went through tremendous challenges. She went through a horrendous divorce, and you know, discipline is she was a person who the word discipline would beat her up, so that was not effective for her. But we had her summit goals all written out. She met with her pod. That became her habit. Each week she showed up, no matter what happened in her world. No matter if she got a letter from the attorney saying that he, wanted this or that or whatever, she still showed up, and that became her habit. And her journey took a little bit longer because she was dealing with some pretty heavy stuff. But now she is hitting her goals. She has her stride. She is consistent, but it just took some more time. So I wouldn't say it's discipline. I would say it's the habits that she
Mm.
created, and ways for her to find solutions to the challenges that she was seeing, to help empower her and make her feel better about herself.
Well said. Midori Verity, what motivates you?
Ah, I love what I do. We've talked about it so many times. I'm in complete alignment with what makes my heart sing, what my zone of genius is, and what drives me. And the watching my clients succeed and watching them overcome challenges and getting I get so many text messages. I don't know where my phone is right now, but I get so many text messages from them, celebrating what their new client that they got, or the achievement that they made. That's awesome. I love
Mm,
it. There's nothing better. And if this is what I do for the rest of my life, life is good. So
mm.
that's what motivates me.
Now, seeing your friends and colleagues prosper is so rewarding. It's so rewarding. And how do you measure success?
I measure success with, how do you feel?
Mm,
Right? Are you feeling the way that you want to feel? We talked about personal goals in the beginning, right? So one of the
yeah.
things that we do in Fuel the Fire is, yes, we set up our business goals, but at the same time, equally as important as your personal goals. So when those are in alignment and when you're achieving both of those, that's true success, right?
Mm.
So again, I've seen so many people who create these businesses and maybe they have incredible financial success, but they feel empty. To me,
Hmm.
that's not success. I think you need to have it. Your heart needs to sing. You need to love what you're doing, and then that's when you hit it.
Well said. What a great honor speaking with you. When I knew that we were going to speak, I got excited. I love learning about you. I was so excited to talk to you. And I know you're in the Bay Area. If I'm there often with the girlfriend, maybe we can all four of us get together, have a cup of coffee. How can we get in touch with you, Midori?
Yeah, thank you first of all for all your kind words. But yeah, so what I would love to do is share the Summit Goal Mapping Framework, which we've been talking about quite a bit. And so, regardless of how big your business is, it's just a really simple, impactful tool that I share with all my clients. And so I'd be happy to share it with your listeners as well. And all they have to do is just go to fuelthefire.co/goals. And that's where it is.
And it's fuel2fire.co. One word, fuel to fire. You're
Right.
also on Facebook. You're also on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube.
Yeah, I'm most active on LinkedIn. So pop on over, say hello. Yeah. So I love
Great
hearing from
pleasure
people.
talking with you today. I really thanks for your time, and I hope we get to see each other in the future face to face. I'll put all these links in the show notes. You be well, Midori. Thank you so much again.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations.